Welcome to the More Demand podcast, where we help you generate more demand for your products and services. Every episode we give you tips, tricks and tutorials on how to get the best out of your digital marketing. Less frustration, more demand. Here's your host Lawrence Howlett with this week's freshest tips.
Hello and welcome to the More Demand podcast episode number 26. This week I'm doing something a little bit different. I know we had Lee on the show guest hosting last week, and I thought this week what I would do is give you a behind the scenes look at the More Demand podcast, because I know a few of you have been emailing in and asking questions about how to start a podcast, and we had Lee Dumas on from Entrepreneur on Fire talking all about how to start a podcast, the reasons for starting a podcast as well. But I wanted to give you a behind the scenes look of what happens at More Demand and our podcast here, how we get guests on the show, how we then make sure that we're recording them all correctly, that we're producing the show correctly, that we're editing it, and then we're marketing the show correctly as well. So I wanted to bring Nick on board onto the show today. He is our producer for the More Demand podcast, and we're just going to have a nice general chat about how we go about producing the More Demand podcast, getting those guests onto the show, and then bringing it to you guys, the listeners of the More Demand podcast. So here we are. I'll bring Nick onto the show, and it's a really, really good one. So get ready with your notebooks, and there's going to be lots of information there, and of course we're going to link to everything in the show notes as well. So here we are. I'll welcome Nick onto the show. Hey Nick, welcome on to the More Demand podcast, mate.
How you doing?
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Very well, very well. Yeah, it's nice to have one of the people behind the scenes of the More Demand podcast actually, come to the front and talk about what they've been doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's a plethora of behind the scenes moments. Everything from creating the podcast to marketing the podcast, doing artwork, talking on your behalf to people, scheduling. There's literally a ton of things going on behind the scenes. It's nice to get a bit of recognition for that, actually. Yeah,
definitely. Well, I mean, that's the thing that we want to talk about today, and help the audience understand what goes into making a podcast, and exactly if they want to start a podcast as well. I know we had Lee Dumas on talking about how to start a podcast, but really what goes into the the belt and braces of actually launching a podcast. But before we do that, just for everyone who doesn't know you, just fill us in a little bit on your background and how you came to the More Demand group and New Edge.
Well, the bulk of my history and career has been in entertainment. I've been a DJ for 20 odd years. I've been involved in broadcasting, presenting radio shows, presenting on stage, doing game shows, comparing events. So the bulk of my experience is in entertainment, but recently, the last sort of few years, I've sort of felt age creeping up on me a little bit, and I'm thinking, okay, I need a real job, like my mum would say. When are you going to get a real job? So the last few years, I've sort of focused my my degree in computer engineering into the sort of the internet side of things, and I've spent a year or two doing web development, and now involved in a lot of marketing and SEO. I've worked for myself and run my own business doing web development, which is how I met yourself, and then got involved working for New Edge, doing the same sort of thing, and then More Demand started. So I was like, right, you're helping me with this, okay, get involved, and it sort of spiraled from there. So
Yeah, no, it's good to paint the picture of the background, and you brought up the entertainment background, and I think let's dive into that a little bit deeper, because I know with the entertainment industry, it's all about connecting with your audience, and you get instant feedback as a DJ, whether you've played the right song or not, you instantly know from the crowd reaction. I think that speaks volumes for how you connect with people. So have you managed to sort of bring that anywhere into what you're doing now?
A lot of the feedback you get has traditionally been word of mouth, or people speaking to you, that was a great gig, I want you for my event. And the way that marketing has changed over the last 20 years has drastically changed the scene as well. I mean, traditional marketing for DJs or weddings or events would have been anything from flyers to newspaper ads, posters, billboards, the old trusty business card, here's my card, to more social. A lot of DJs now are using social media as their way of connecting with their audience, because generally people that like DJs are between 16 and 30. That's when you sort of your peak of interest in DJing and clubbing and music tends to be. So to find that audience, you've kind of got to work out what they're interested in, what social channels they're using, and where to find them, where to connect in the modern world. Because, like I say, things have changed so much that if you don't keep on top of that, then you really are losing out.
Yeah, and I think, with the podcast, this is exactly what we're, now trying to do with the More Demand podcast. We're trying to connect with you guys out there and in the service-based industries, in those places where you want to generate those high-quality leads. And it's really, about understanding exactly, how we're connecting with you, how we're helping you solve your challenges, rather than thinking about, as you sort of said back then, just handing out your business card and going, this is me, this is what I do. That doesn't mean anything to anyone until they've actually got, a wedding coming up or something like that. So it's connecting with the people at the right time. But yeah, let's sort of bring it back to the More Demand podcast and seeing how it goes behind the scenes. So obviously I record the episode. We normally have a guest on, or we do a bit of a mini training session, and then that's pretty much where I end, and I hand it off to you to do everything else.
Sure.
So talk me through the process. Once I've created the podcast itself and made the MP3, what's the next steps?
So you'll notice at the start and the end of the podcast, we've got a sexy little intro. That was created using a voiceover from voiceovers.co.uk. It's a website that we've used in radio before, where you can just listen to millions of different voiceover artists and pick one, send them the script, and for between £50 to £100, they'll record your intro and you can use that wherever. So a little bit of editing on Audacity or Adobe Audition, and you've got a podcast intro using a professional voiceover. You can get royalty-free music as well from bedsandbeats.com, I think it is, .com or .co.uk, and you can put together a really cool intro in 30 minutes maybe, and that obviously that's royalty free, so you don't have to sort of pay anything. Once you've got the track, that's it, that's yours. And then I chop up the audio, would have a nice intro at the start and the outro at the end. That would then get uploaded to SoundCloud. It will get uploaded to Podbean, which is the site we use to push all of the podcasts to iTunes. Where else does it go? I think that's it at the minute. Oh, then we'd convert it to a YouTube video. You can use a service called tunestotube.com, which will allow you to upload an image and an MP3 file, and it will create a video with just a plain image, just to give you another avenue of reaching another audience.
Yeah, and I think those multi-channels from as you said there, we've got SoundCloud, which has got its own audience that is starting to pick up now. We've got obviously we use Podbean, which pushes it out to iTunes and Stitcher Radio as well, I think. And then we've just started looking at YouTube as well to try and build an audience there, because we definitely want to do video stuff as well. So I know that's coming up. So it's that was a great idea to do that in terms of just adding the image there. But to go back to I think
one of the problems that we have probably faced, I think any business will face, is finding the right medium to pursue. But until you realise which is picking up the most traction, you kind of just have to throw it all out there and see which ones generate the best response. Hey, we're getting loads of hits on YouTube. Maybe we ought to start doing video podcasts. Or most of the people subscribe on iTunes, so we need to focus it on there. And I think that's just a process that anyone will go through, especially with social media as well. Any business that wants to set up a social media channel, start marketing themselves, start connecting with their audience, building relationships, needs to find their sweet spot, as it's called, as Mark Schaefer, I think, mentioned in one of our episodes.
Yeah, no, exactly that, and it's not being afraid to have a failure. So if you've got a YouTube channel and it's got 0 subscribers, but you've given it a good 3-month try, then don't worry about that. That's just one of the things that you're going to come across. It's then taking stock of that and learning from it, and then rethinking about how we can move forward and change it and tweak it and connect with our audience in a different way. So yeah, the multi-channel effort, behind the scenes of the More Demand podcast, from that simple MP3, all of a sudden, we've got it being put on 3 different channels, plus we've got a video being made for YouTube as well. So you've created some voiceovers, you've made that intro and outro for the podcast, and then what happens? Obviously, we've got some artwork to create as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the artwork is definitely part of it. I use iStock Photo to get vector images that sort of fit in with the theme for the show. Whack them into Photoshop and do a bit of magic trickery in there, make them look nice and neat. They'll create 3 different sizes so that we've got different sized artwork for each social media platform. So we'll have one size for the actual podcast website. We've got one size for sort of Twitter and Facebook and things like that, so that they all look how they should on each social channel.
Yeah, so once we've created that artwork, I know there's then a ton of uploading to do in terms of adding that to the iTunes account, then adding it to the SoundCloud account, and then we're into really that sort of got the MP3 and the assets and everything together, haven't we? And then it's all about the marketing of the podcast itself. We've sort of done the production element, and it's all uploaded, it's ready to listen to, and now we need to get you guys out there, the listeners, to be able to find and interact with our podcast.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot of marketing elements involved within the website itself. We've got a ton of plugins. We've got a ton of external sites that we use as well, like lead pages, for example. Every time we create a download or a cheat sheet or a workbook, we'll use lead pages to create a little capture box that basically says, hey, thanks for your interest in our download. Send us your email and we'll give you the download. It's a really simple plugin or bolt-on that you can add to the site, which will allow you to then grab that user's email so that you can let them know about future podcasts, and you basically, it's that first step in building a customer relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So just to talk about what happens after that. So there's an episode, so moredemand.co.uk/episode. This will be 26, I think. On there, we normally have, as you say, that cheat sheet or a download, and that then goes into a system called Infusionsoft. So we're going to link to all of these in the show notes. So don't worry if you're trying to sort of keep up with the pace. But Infusionsoft then allows us to send you email. So when you've received the email saying this is the latest podcast episode, here are the links that you need to go and listen to it, that's sent from the Infusionsoft system. And in fact, when you first sign up to any of our sort of lead magnets, whether it be a free download or whether it be the content planner or whatever it is, the first time you enter your name and email address, you're then set up with an automated sequence that will send you 3 emails just to onboard you, so that I know that you've had 3 of our best podcast episodes, that you've had an introductory offer, and that you're just up to speed with what More Demand offers. So In fact, I think there's an episode for that on the 4 email sequences. If you head over to moredemand.co.uk and check out the podcast episodes, you'll find the 4 onboarding email sequences that I use. But so far we've used a ton of software from Podbean to sort of manage the uploads to iTunes, etc. We've used Photoshop and a bit of iStock for the artwork. We've then used Lead Pages and Infusionsoft to capture those name and email addresses of the listeners. And then there's the whole WordPress in terms of creating the post itself. So talk me through how we post up the podcast onto WordPress.
So we've devised our own template that follows the same format every week, so that we've got a set introduction that will be taken from the transcription, which Nadj does for us. Bless her. Yeah. She has to sit through every podcast and write them word for word. Then I'll go through that and create an introduction. And we've got a set of bullet points that tell the listener exactly what they're going to take from the podcast. We'll use plugins like the Smart Player. I think you know more about that than me.
Yeah, the Smart Player is by Pat Flynn. He owns the podcast Smart Passive Income, and that podcast player just allows you to link up to an MP3 file, and it will allow you to stream that MP3 file on your website. It's a fantastic plugin. I think about $99, somewhere around that. It's an annual subscription, but yeah, a fantastic plugin that's used by the big boys like John Lee Dumas and the big girls like Amy Porterfield. So all of those people use the Smart Player. Really, really good plugin.
Definitely. So then it's just filling the template with real content and getting it out there, scheduling it in for every week. I think we're about 4 weeks ahead at the minute, and then we've got a ton of bolt-ons that sit on the front of the website as well, like Sumo Me, which is a really simple plugin that allows you to quickly say, hey, thanks for visiting. I know what you really want, but before you do that, let's grab your email address. There could be a ton of other stuff that comes up that might be interesting as well. So by that point, we already know that people have got an interest in what we're doing. So we're giving them an opportunity to get future episodes straight to their inbox and to really sort of drive home how much we're doing and how much we're creating for them.
Yeah, because I think there's a ton of content that goes into to more demand in terms of getting out there just even before I suppose we should cover this before we even start the episode. There is a ton of work that goes into it. So we've sort of gone through what happens once we've created the show itself. We've taken that from an MP3, we've uploaded it to iTunes, we've created the artwork, we've created a content upgrade with that Lead Pages pop-up box, and then we've posted it to WordPress. But actually, before the show even starts, there's a ton of stuff that you do to get guests on the show and to plan those podcast episodes. So let's just take 10 steps back, if you will.
Sure, no worries.
And go through that.
It's easy for me to forget how, like, all the mundane stuff, if you like, because obviously the fun comes from creating things. It's easy to forget the amount of work you have to do before you even get to that stage. Like LinkedIn, I often take over your LinkedIn account and we'll message people on your behalf. It's text that you've supplied that we've used in the past that kind of just grabs people's attention. And the way that I find our contacts in the first place is by just seeing what's out there, looking at the popular podcasts like Smart Passive Income, seeing who's been on there recently and thinking, hey, these are a great fit. I need to find out more, visiting their website, finding their contact details. If there's no contact details or just a form, then I'll search on LinkedIn, find the person, send them a message, reach out, and we use a system called meetme.so, meetme.so, which is a great little tool that allows you to specify which days you're available, within the next month to record shows or to be interviewed for somebody else's show. And we send them that link, and they basically click it and choose a slot, and bam, they're booked in. So that's a really good tool to use.
Yeah, I think that it's actually called Schedule Once. It's the meetme.so is the short URL, but
right.
Schedule Once is the service, and that integrates with my Google Calendar. So what I can do is block out my availability and just give that to Schedule Once. So what I do is I like to record the podcast on a Wednesday. We try and group as many different guests as we can together on a single Wednesday, so that I might be able to record up to 4 shows, in a batch process, so that we then, for the next month, we're then sorted for podcast episodes. But that reaching out to and to try and get guests on the show is so important. That's part of the hustle that we have to do. So if you're thinking of launching a podcast and you're just thinking, right, I'm going to launch this podcast and loads of guests are going to come on the show, you have to go through that hustle period of actually doing the work, reaching out to people and trying to get them on the show, because without that it's not going to work. You have to do that hustle part. And how do you talked about looking at like smart passive income. How do you then sort of shortlist those guests and preempt them to what the show includes and the show flow, etc.?
I think one of the most important things I've learned from listening to the podcast myself, actually, because before I started More Demand, I was just doing standard SEO, a bit of content creation. I mean, the amount that I've learned just by editing this podcast is phenomenal. One of the things is solving other people's issues. So I'd go through the list of influencers or people that have been interviewed on Smart Passive Income or on Groove HQ, and I'd go through the list and I think, right, who have we got here? What problems have they got that we can solve? What would they get out of being on our show? What could we provide for them in order for them to benefit before us? And I think that's one of the key things that's cropped up in a lot of the podcasts that we've done, is you need to solve other people's problems first and kind of offer a helping hand to them, which is part of the problem. It's, not everybody's going to be a best fit, but you still have to go through the process of working out whether they are or not, which means doing a bit of research, going to their website, seeing what they're about, seeing what they've done, what their experience is, what their niche is, and kind of take it from there, really. Yeah. Some of it, like you say, that's time that you have to spend. And unfortunately, a lot of the time that you spend in marketing can be dead time. But that's just part of the process, and you just have to think, right, well, on to the next one. There's no point dwelling on it. You think, right, okay, I've spent 10, 20 minutes trying to work out whether this person's a good fit, and they're not. I've just wasted 20 minutes. Oh, well, on to the next one.
Yeah. I mean, with that you might have wasted that 10 minutes there, but actually, you've saved us an hour and a half or 2 hours of recording a podcast that's then not a good fit. So actually, it's quite a nice time saving thing for me. And I was speaking to Travis Jenkins yesterday. I was interviewed for the Entrepreneur Radio Show, and he was saying exactly the same thing. Of he was telling a story about some guy just reached out to him and said, I do web design, I want to redesign your website. And Travis was like, well, hang on, you obviously don't know about marketing, because you've not even thought about helping me first. And that's one of the things that when we reach out to people, we're like, we understand your niche, we understand what you offer, so already we've sort of connected with them, and actually what we're offering you is the opportunity to reach a new audience and grab some new email addresses, get some visibility through the More Demand podcast. So it's a fantastic in with these sort of people, to be able to offer them a spot on the More Demand podcast.
Yeah, definitely, because not every marketeer, is that a word, marketer.
Yeah.
Not every marketer is going to be using the same channel that you are. And they might not want to. They might think, I haven't got time to sit and create a podcast and edit it and create artwork. I just do Facebook, or I just do content marketing on a whole, or I connect with people and bring people together. So offering them a solution and a channel for them to do something easily is a bonus for them. They're like, if we went to somebody and said, well, we've got 2,000 subscribers on the More Demand podcast, we're reaching an audience that's worldwide, do you want to be interviewed on it and reach a different audience? 30 minutes out of the day is nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's having that offering, that gives us the ability to welcome guests on the show, like the big hitters, John Lee Dumas, but, everyone in between as well. It's a fantastic platform to have, real decent conversations with people and add value, to the listeners out there. So going back to the marketing of the podcast. So I know we do some influencer marketing. So the guests that come on the show, they then help out. What does that look like?
Well, part of the scheduling that gets I'm getting tongue-tied here. Part of the scheduling that's involved in every show is scheduling social media posts to support each new show, tagging the right people in them, letting them know when the show's going to be aired as well. Infusionsoft is a great tool for that. You know more about it than I do, but you can automate a lot of emails to remind the people that we've interviewed, hey, we'll go live in 2 weeks. Here's a quick way that you can tweet us. You can include a little auto tweet, bit of text in there, an ahref that allows them to do that really easily.
Yeah, I mean, with the Infusionsoft stuff, it's a simple thing that we have a show date which I add to the contact record, and then leading up to that, it will say 10 days before we go live in 10 days. Here's all the links that you need. 3 days before, I'll say, hey, are you ready for the show going live? Let's get some excitement. Here are all the images that you can use for the show, and then on the day that it goes live, we'll email them again saying, your show's now live, ready to tell your audience, here's all the links that you need. Again, here's the show link, here we are on iTunes, etc. And then 3 days afterwards, I then send them an email saying, your show's had fantastic response. We'd love to see a review from yourselves on iTunes, because that's a way that iTunes ranks podcasts as well. It ranks them on reviews. So, we want to make sure that we're getting those reviews as well. So again, that's all done through Infusionsoft, but you could do that through AWeber, Constant Contact, MailChimp, whatever sort of platform that you're using. But that's a great way for, the guest to feel more connected with the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Also in the scheduling as well, we use a system where we'll post twice on the day of release, then we'll post the day after the release, the week after the release, and the month after the release, and they'll be posted at specific times that work best for each social channel. So for Facebook, the best time to post is between 1 and 3 in the afternoon, weekdays, and the same for Twitter. For sort of B2B, it generally seems to be that early afternoon spot, when people start getting bored with their day job and they're like, oh, what can I do? I'll check Facebook. So that's a brilliant time to make sure everything's scheduled to go out at. For B2C, probably the weekend, late afternoon or early evening is the best time.
Yeah, and I think the thing with that is to remember to test for your own market, and just test different times for things to go out, test the cadence, the frequency that you're posting, and just see what's getting more response. And remember as well, we're dealing with a global audience, so what we try and do as well is post, at the times that people might be waking up on the east coast of the States, as well as in the afternoon for the UK, when people are maybe on their lunch and they've got time to listen to the podcast, or whether they're on their drive into work. So what we always do is schedule the podcast to be released at just, I think it's 1 a.m. actually on iTunes, or something that early in GMT, so that it's there for everyone who's waking up across the world and having it on their drive into work, which I know a lot of you do, or whether you're on the tube or the train or whatever it is. I know that's where you listen to most of the time for the podcast. So other things that we do for marketing. I know we set up some Facebook ads as well for big episodes. So what sort of things do you have to do for those Facebook ads?
That's a good question, and it's not something I do a lot of. You're dealing with the majority of the Facebook stuff.
You do all the images and
the
images,
the images and graphics. That's my forte, but they'll generally be similar to what we've used for the artwork for the podcast, or if we've had a special guest on the show, we'll grab an image of the special guest, and some of the quotes out of the podcast will get used in the marketing as well, because the quotes have really got a great impact. It sort of tells you what the show's about and really captures your attention without really knowing what the title is.
Yeah, I think so talk through we had Rand Fishkin from mods.com on a few weeks ago, and I think we created a ton of quotes from his podcast episode, so it was unique to us, but they were really, really impactful quotes.
Yeah, sure. I'm just trying to find some of Rand Fishkin's quotes. I can't even remember what episode it is, to be fair. I'm that caught up in the next 4 that we've got.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the key, is making it unique and emphasizing how specific the content is for our show.
Yeah, because
a lot of the influencers can do a lot of different things. They might do a bit of content marketing, they might do social stuff, but we'll just tap into one particular area per show. So we'll say, right, Rand, we want you to talk about analytics, because we know that's a niche for you, and we know that that's one of the needs of our clients at the minute. So
yeah, and that we did that with so many different people, like John Lee Dumas. We had him on to talk about podcasting, and everyone has that particular thing that they really, really are good at and able to nice and easily talk about and have a really deep conversation. And that's what we're trying to do with the More Demand podcast, is bring you these guests that have the ability to really take a deep dive into a specific subject, and so that you get the most value out of it possible. And it's just the behind the scenes work, to bring an episode to you that might just be 30-45 minutes, probably actually takes more than a whole day, a couple of days worth of man hours just to put together, market, and then or bring the guest on in the first place. So there's a ton of work there that really goes unnoticed. So that's why I thought I'd bring Nick onto the show today to just bring him to the forefront and give him some some brownie points if it were. So I know there's also a load of new tools out there like Buzzstream and Buzzsumo that we're using to do some influencer marketing and allowing you to try and find people that will share our content as well. So let's talk about the sort of strategy before we talk about the tools. So for example, we've created an episode with Rand Fishkin from Moz on a digital marketing workshop. So how would we then go and find people that might want to share that sort of podcast?
Okay, well, this is a relatively new venture for me. Traditionally, I would have had to scour through various websites to see what sort of posts had got shares that were similar to what we created, and to see which ones had generated more interest than others. But with tools like Buzzsumo, you can type in a topic and it will instantly show you within a region or within a time period which articles have created the most traction, which have got the most Facebook shares, Twitter shares, Google Plus shares. And then from that, it can go one step further and it will show you who's shared them. And you can export a list of the people that shared it as well. Excuse me. So the idea with that is that rather than you having to go through every website and find different things that have gained traction in the past and then create lists manually, this tool does it all for you. You can find out instantly what has worked for somebody else, find out the types of people that are interested in that, have shared it, have liked it, create a list, and then you import that into our next tool, which is Buzzstream.
Yeah, so what happens inside Buzzstream?
Buzzstream is it's a kind of replacement for what I've been doing manually in the past, which is finding people's websites, finding their contact details, adding them to our CRM, customer relationship tool. It's a way of automating all of that into one tool. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, no, I know with
but it's still very new to me, so I'm still kind of getting to grips with all of the features. But for me, what it's simplified so far is you can load people's websites up in the same window. It will automatically scan that website for their contact details, and then we can add these people to our database of people that we can then contact and say, hey, we noticed you liked this person's post about content marketing. We've done one that's better. Would you mind taking a look?
Yeah, and it's a tactic that I think I can't remember his surname from Backlinko, Brian
Dean.
Yeah, there we go. It's a tactic that he came up with, that you can go to people that have existing content that are linking to your competitors' content, and if someone's created a list of the 10 best ways to do XYZ, well, if you've created a 52 ways to do XYZ, then contact the people that have shared that original article, and you can then say, right, we've done an article, it goes a bit deeper, you've got to phrase it in a sort of nice and approachable way. We've gone a deeper dive into this subject. We'd love for you to share this as well as the original article. What do you think? And it's a great way because it shows that you're not just sending them oh, please link to me. You've actually gone that next step sort of down the line. And Buzzstream and Buzzsumo are two great applications to sort of help manage that process. So what have been some of the highlights, if you like, Nick, for the More Demand podcast, and where do you see us pushing forward with it?
I definitely think we need to further find a smaller niche of people. I mean, the service business industry is huge. So I definitely think we need to focus on finding that one industry that's maybe struggling a little more than all the others, that we can really help people gain some traction online. Like the older businesses that are of traditional marketing ilk, I think want to transform and to start selling online, to start being visible, to really grow their business. But it's trying to work out which direction to go in, I think.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there in terms of, when we're looking at niche and trying to, really describe who we're going to help. I think there's a particular stage that a business is at, rather than, we're definitely helping service-based businesses that want to generate those high-quality leads, but it's, at what stage are they at? So, we are definitely really good at helping companies that are frustrated and a bit overwhelmed about digital marketing and don't really know where to start in that journey. Maybe they've taken on an agency, but they didn't really know what they were buying, and they haven't got the results because they didn't understand their own business first. That's I think where we can help out. So actually, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Live on the podcast. We're best at helping people at a certain stage.
I mean, a great example of what the More Demand podcast has done for me on a personal level is I run a small agency that puts DJs at weddings. And I've had a website for years. I've never really sort of pushed it or known how to market it. But since editing the More Demand podcast, this website has now got landing pages for all of the different regions that my DJs are available in. It's now got a soft convert, so it's now got a free wedding planner checklist where you enter your email and we get their email address in return for a wedding planner download. And it's gone from doing 0 leads a week to kind of just being a business card that's online that does nothing, to creating 3 or 4 quality leads a week, which is quite amazing to see, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's a 3x or 4x improvement from where you were. So props for doing that, definitely. So I think, that's, coming to the end of the show and wrapping up, what we've talked about. And it'd be great to share a little bit where, people might be able to get in touch with you if they want to, learn some sort of production techniques and talk about the lead pages and the Infusionsoft and everything like that. So, I'm happy for you to share your email address for people to get in touch and see where we go from there.
Sure. I mean, you can see most of the sort of content creation that I do on moredemand.co.uk, also for our agency newedge.co.uk, and you can contact me at Nick, spelt Nik, at newedge.co.uk. Ask me anything you like. I'll be only too willing to help.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, Nick. It's been it's been odd interviewing one of my own team, but I think
Sure.
it's going to be really relevant and helpple for the audience. So
Definitely.
Thanks for being on the show, mate.
No problem. How about that pay rise?
Yeah, well, we'll chat about that later. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening. That's another episode of the More Demand podcast. We'll be back next Wednesday for another show.
Thanks for listening to the More Demand podcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on iTunes and get the latest episode direct to your device every Wednesday.